Hello folks, welcome to the channel. It's your old buddy, old pal, Primal Chaos here, and today we're going to be doing another Band-Maid song. I know that this is one of the ones that's been requested over and over and over again, so hopefully it lives up to the hype. So far with Band-Maid, I've done a couple of songs that were, a bit more heavy, and then I've done one that was a bit more of a slow power ballad. I have no idea what this is. So I know that, like, you guys have probably told me in the comments, but there's so many comments. So I've totally lost track, but I was scrolling through and I saw Onset, and I know that I've promised 100 people that I was going to do Onset pretty soon, and now's the time. So just if you're not familiar with the format, essentially what I do is I try to add a little bit more value to my reactions rather than just saying that was cool or that was great. I like to look at it from the perspective of, production, playing technique, songwriting, things like that. I try to pull out things that are a little bit more interesting for people who may not be musicians and really familiar with the songs. Maybe I can sort of give you another perspective to look at it, and you might find some things in the song that you're not familiar with. What that means is, though, that oftentimes I'll pause throughout the song, so just be prepared for that. Then usually at the end I'll do a summary and a bit of a breakdown of everything. But yeah, so stick around till the end and let's jump in. Band-Maid Onset. Oh, nice. Wow, that's really interesting. Wow, it's just chaos. So I'm starting to get an understanding that this is an instrumental track. And I seem to remember that from the comments too, that it really shows off everybody's technique and the dynamics that they're playing and stuff like that. So it's probably the reason why it's been recommended to me so much. Yeah, so there's a lot of chaos going on there. I closed my eyes there for a second because there's so much going on with just like all of the light show and cutting between angles and stuff like that. It's distracting me from listening. And so all I'm really hearing is the guitar in the right ear, which is doing most of the featured work. But I'm sort of like missing so much of the other, drums and bass and stuff like that, which is no good. So I'm gonna have to go back a little bit and get more of a feel. But man, yeah, this is a really intense track, and it seems like it was custom designed for that sort of period in the show where maybe the vocalist takes a break and the band just keeps on kicking it with something that sort of really demonstrates all of their abilities, I'm assuming there's probably a drum solo and a bass solo and stuff coming up and things like that, but let's jump right back, because this isn't a song that you can really grasp everything on the first listen, so I'm going to have to sort of quasi do that by just jumping back a fair amount. Love that. So that's interesting. What I heard just then in that sort of like this part back here. So what you're hearing there, if you listen to just with this headphone on, you can hear the clean guitar a little bit more without the delay on it. But essentially what's happening is she's just playing do 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 do, and there's an echo, or what we call a delay, that's sort of like playing those notes back in between those notes, so you get more of like a sort of pattern. And we discussed this in the last song I did. The I can't think of the name of it right now. It was Daydream. Yeah, when in Daydream we were sort of discussing a little bit how some of the high guitar parts were reminiscent of The Edge from U2, and Where the Streets Have No Name, that sort of sort of part. And just for that little bit in there, she had that going on, which was, again, it's kind of interesting how she's sort of taken that in to her style, right? One thing I've noticed with these guys, which is really interesting, is the fundamental sounds of all of the instruments is really interesting, because they're just really, the sounds are really rooted in classic rock. The bass guitar is a nice, well-rounded tone. It's not an edgy metal sound, and it's got a lot of warmth to it, but still it's got enough sort of a bite to it that it cuts through the mix, particularly when she's playing fingerstyle and stuff like that. It still has an edge to it, but not like a distorted edge. It's just there's enough of an attack on the bass that it doesn't get lost in the waffle, so to speak. And the guitar, like the left guitar, is basically just a straight rhythm guitar, rock guitar sound. The lead guitar part, again, is pretty sort of straight up and down rock and roll, heavy metal, but not like metalcore sort of sound, right? And, you know, she augments that occasionally with delays and things like that, and some clean sounds, which is all just stock standard for just heavy rock sort of stuff, right? Drums, again, the drum riffs are all kind of the same. They vary in degree depending on the song. But what's interesting is that they're taking all of these tried and tested sounds and tools, and they're filtering them through the prism that is Band-Maid, and you get this amazing, weird, diverse chaos that is fresh and original, right? They're not trying to reinvent the wheel as instrumentalists, like as far as the sounds they choose, but they're trying to just demonstrate their uniqueness through their composition to a degree, and also their playing, you know? And I love that. It's really interesting and fresh. It's kind of like they've co-opted traditional rock music from the West and remixed it into what you hear on stage right now. I also love the energy too. This would be a great performance piece for, you know, live on stage in the middle of a concert, so to speak. So wow. Nice solo. Okay, I'm just going to go back a little bit because I got a little distracted there over the solos, and I do not want to miss this. So what do we got? That's Misa coming up. So what I mean, like her bass sound is really beautifully bassy, which is, it seems to be like the obvious thing. But not all bass players have a truly well-rounded bass tone. A lot of them sort of focus too much on cutting through the mix, and they take a lot of the low resonance out and opt for more of a high-end sort of attack sound. But what this allows her to do is she plays all over the neck. You'll see her jump up to the high octaves on the bass and sort of do these little flourishes before sliding back down and things like that, or these little walks up to the top. But it always sounds bassy. It never sounds kind of like plunky or edgy. And there's always a bottom end to the mix, which is really cool. Miku? Okay. Is that Konami? I'm not sure who's who. It's either Miku or Konami. Konami. But let's check that again. She was doing some wah work. Nice. Oh, she looks like she's a drop D. Hang on. Maybe not. Nice fill. Right on. Very cool. All right, I'll stick around after the break. I'll do a bit more of a breakdown, and we'll see what's what. Hey guys, this video is made possible by Enchroma. 1 in 6 guys and 1 in 200 women are colorblind, and if that happens to be you, there's something you can do about it. Click the link in the description, it'll take you to Enchroma's website where you can get a free eye test. And while you're there, maybe pick up some corrective lenses. They've got styles to suit everybody and a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you got really nothing to lose. And while you're there, use the code CHAOS in checkout to get 10% off. Tell them Primal Chaos sent you. All right, so yeah, that was really interesting. It's not often that you get that anymore, where you have a band who, you know, when the singer goes off stage, they'll have like an instrumental piece that sort of demonstrates all of their strengths as players and performers. You know, I mean, I seem to remember back in the day there was a song, was it called Orion by Metallica, which was the same sort of thing. It was just purely instrumental. And I mean, there's, you know, throughout history, bands have done that sort of thing, and it's a great way to sort of, you know, interact with the crowd. And it's sort of a little bit less wanky than like, you know, throughout the concert, the bass player will come out and he'll have a solo thing, and then later on the guitar player will come out and do something. And, you know, it's a good way to elongate a show, but it sort of, I guess you lose engagement with a lot of the audience who aren't interested in listening to the bass player play for 15 minutes, you know what I mean? Or whatever, you know? So this is a really cool way of sort of demonstrating all of your chops without, you know, a vocal sort of getting in the way and letting the rest of the band shine for just one song, right? And yeah, I really dig the energy. They basically took something that was essentially basic diatonic chords and turned it into this weird maelstrom of chaos, you know? Guitar-wise, there was a lot of sort of technique things that you saw, like mostly tapping. A lot of the main motifs were done with two-handed tapping, which is a really good way to make like a dynamic melody on a guitar in a creative way that sort of it impresses people. It's a bit flashy. So when, you know, the average audience member looks up and you're sitting there doing something on a guitar that's not traditional guitar playing, it blows their minds. And particularly when it sounds amazing, and tapping when done right sounds really good. And this was very tastefully done. So, you know, there's some little guitar solo-y bits, and there was some cool tempo and timing switch ups that allowed her to sort of do some cool accented parts as well. The rhythm guitar was rock solid. There's not much to really talk about. She was just sort of keeping it on the level. And when she did her solo again, it was kind of just rock solid. They kept it short and interesting as more of a segue back into like more of the drum solo, which was, again, just kind of tasteful as well. They had lots of options they could have chosen that maybe weren't so tasteful. They went with the right one. I talked a lot about the bass and the bass sound and how good that is. Yeah, I mean, the only thing left to talk about is the singer, who's not there. So, you know, these guys are great. They really are. They sort of take, like I mentioned earlier, they take influence from a lot of different genres, but they definitely have like their sound rooted deeply in heavy rock, right? But they not only put it through the prism of like 5 women, but also 5 Japanese people, right? So they have their own cultural influence and their own, you know, identity culturally as far as rock and roll, metal, Western music listeners and traditional Japanese music listeners. So you're always going to get something a little different and esoteric. And that's what these guys really shine at. They take complicated technique and musical ideas and somehow manage to squeeze them and shoehorn them into a song that's, how do I put it? Like more accessible, right? That's why so many people love Band-Maid. It's because you play them and you immediately like all their songs because there's nothing not to like. But then when you listen again and again, you start to hear these weird undercurrents of different influence or like amazing technique or little flourishes musically that sort of catch your ear all the time. And that's just the sign of players who are mature enough to know how to write for the song, in service of the song, but also capable enough and confident enough to not try to impress you with every single note, you know? And that's, you know, you can't teach that. That's just something that you earn through being good and for being good for a long period of time. Yeah, so that's basically it. What a great song. I'm so glad you guys recommended that to me. I really enjoyed that. It's nice to be able to see some musicians sort of take the forefront and shine a little bit more than a vocalist from time to time. Yeah, so thanks for that. For a channel that focuses on extreme vocals, this was an odd choice, but a valid one. Anyway, that's about it from me. If you feel like I've brightened your day at all, you can really support me and the channel by just buying me a coffee. I'll put a link in the description. All these videos get demonetized, so that's a really good way to keep me going. Also, like, share, subscribe. Send this to someone who you think might appreciate the reaction video. That's probably the best way of supporting the channel. And of course, keep sending me suggestions. Hit me up in the comments if you think there's anything else that I've missed or that I should be reacting to. Yeah, that's awesome, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.